I speak to so many runners who know they need to do strength training, they are motivated to do it, but they just don't know what to do. So today we're going to go through the only 5 exercises you need to create whole body strength, improve your running, and reduce your risk of injury. Let's get into it. So these 5 exercises are best done in the gym. I personally think a gym is the most efficient place to get strong. I do appreciate gyms aren't for everyone, especially in the running community, so I will also release a minimal body weight strength routine as well, but I just think it's much easier when you have access to the kit that exists in even the most basic of gyms. Today I'm going to share the exact 5 movements I use on a weekly basis, but I'll also share the principles you need to understand so that you can put them together in a structured way and make progress over time. Before you start your strength training, you're going to need to warm up. Now, we're actually going to use our strength exercises as a warm-up too, but you need to get your body physically warm. The rule is, you should raise your body temperature enough so that if you were wearing a jumper, you would want to take it off. Even if you're not wearing one, that's the sort of temperature increase we're aiming at. For me, this usually just means a few minutes of rowing or an incline treadmill, and then that gets my body ready to train. After we're warm, I do a few full range of movement bodyweight exercises like squats and press-ups and split squats and side squats, and that just gets my hips and my shoulders ready for the work we're about to do. The first strength exercise we need is a bilateral leg strength exercise. This means that your feet will be in line with each other and working at the same time. My personal favorite for this is a slant wedge squat. I think the squat in general is the king of leg exercises, but as a runner, I have tight ankles that restricts my squat range. What this means is that if I squat too deep, my body leans forwards to compensate for my tight ankles, and when I have a load on my back, this makes it dangerous for my lower back. To get the most out of the exercise for my hips and thighs, I want to go really deep in the squat. So to achieve this safely, I use a slant wedge. I got these wedges off Amazon for £20 and I take them to the gym with me each time. If you're not comfortable squatting, alternative movements could be the leg press machine. This is a nice movement for beginners because the machine controls the range of motion and you can just move the pin in the weight stack to find a weight that feels right for you. The next exercise we have is a unilateral leg strength exercise. And this is where we prioritize one leg more than the other in a split stance or a lunge movement. My personal favorite here is the Bulgarian split squat. Hold some dumbbells in each hand, place one foot on a bench behind you. It might take a little bit of adjusting to get the distance right, and then you just squat down while trying to maintain an upright posture of your torso. I have a few tricks that makes this exercise more effective. Firstly, I twist slightly in the direction of the front leg. I do this by pulling the outside dumbbell back and pushing the inside dumbbell forwards. Next, I'm also going to push down with my back foot, but only at about 20%. I want there to be about an 80-20 split of strength from my front leg to the back leg, which drives the overall movement. I do this because when the back leg is in that position, there's a stretch on the muscle called rectus femoris, which is the middle quadricep, and it's the only quadricep that crosses the hip. By pushing down, we're just activating that upper part of the rectus fem and the other hip flexors, which is really good for us as a runner. The last little tip I have is that I use lifting straps. I don't want my grip to be the failure point of the exercise, so I use lifting straps to help me hold the dumbbells, and then I can really maximize the impact I put on my legs. Other unilateral exercises you might want to check out would be lunges or reverse lunges or split squats or the now famous knees over toes split squat as promoted by Ben Patrick. Pick whichever exercise you feel the most comfortable with so that you can just get started with anything. We're going to move on to the upper body now, and with our arms you just need to think of it that we push things and we pull things. We're going to start with the push, and this can either be a horizontal push like the bench press, the dumbbell bench press, the chest press or press-ups, or it can be a vertical press like the shoulder press variations. I personally like the dumbbell bench press on an incline bench because this gets both the chest and the shoulders, and by using dumbbells I can just slightly tweak the position of my shoulders, which keeps my shoulders feel comfortable and safe, but I can also go through a very big range of motion. Out of that long list of exercises I gave you, pick a movement that you feel comfortable with, and don't worry about using machines to begin with if this makes it feel easier. We're then going to move on to an upper body pull. This bit could be something like a pull up, a lat pull down, a seated row, or a bent over dumbbell row. My personal favorite is the pull up, and that's because for me, the pull ups fall into the rep range that I like to work with, which I'm going to get into in a little while. Whereas something like press ups in the push, I can do too many of them to be a really good strength exercise. However, other movements I like in the pull are the lat pull down and the seated row. Last up, we're going to move on to core strength. Now, core is a very funny phrase because all of the movements we've talked about so far involve the abs and the deep back muscles, but with our final exercise, we're going to put more of an emphasis on the abdominal muscles. My personal favorite is the hanging leg raise because it really loads the abs from a stretched position, and it also gets the hip flexors, which is great for us runners. If this is too hard for you, you can do leg raises from the machine that you rest your elbows on in the gym, or other core alternatives could be things like dynamic planks. I never do a plank where I try and stay still, because when in life do you ever just try and stay as still as you can for as long as you can? But in a plank position, you can reach with your hands and feet, or just wiggle your hips to make it more effective. So now you've got your 5 movements, how do we put these together to make a structured workout? Well, you're going to do 3 sets of each, and the first 2 sets are warm-up sets, and your last set is your working set where you're going to push really hard. With the first 2 sets, start light, go through full range of motion, but always leave quite a few reps left in the tank. The phrase here is RPE, relative perceived exertion, which basically means how hard do I think I'm working out of 10. The first set should be about 5 out of 10, and then once you've had a little rest, your muscles would have woken up neurologically. The next set will be about 7 out of 10, and then the final set we're going to go to about 9 out of 10. If you think about it, 10 out of 10 is the absolute maximum you could lift if someone had a gun to your head. And the risk reward there for us runners at 10 out of 10 really doesn't quite make sense. So we're just going to leave a rep or 2 in the tank, so 9 out of 10 RPE, but that's the place that we're really going to be increasing our strength. Now you understand RPE, we need to talk about rep ranges. The concept of rep ranges can get super nerdy, and I do love a nerdy conversation about rep ranges, but to keep it simple, we can broadly split it into 2. Keeping the reps under 6 is the best way to get really strong, and if you go this route because you want to get really strong, that's cool, and you're just going to need a bit more rest between sets. Choosing a rep range between 8 to 20 is where you're still going to get strong, but not quite so strong, but you're going to build more muscle. This is the one I choose because I just like to build a bit of muscle. Don't worry, you're not going to end up looking like a bodybuilder and not being able to run. It's actually really hard to end up looking like a bodybuilder, but doing the 8 to 20 rep range will help you hold on to some extra lean muscle mass, which has been shown to have many health benefits. So on my final set, where I'm aiming to get an RPE of 9 out of 10, I'm aiming to get to that point somewhere between 8 to 20 reps. I aim for about 12. If I can do less than 8 reps, the weight was too heavy. If I can do 20 or more reps, the weight is too light. Each workout, you're going to want to try to increase either your reps or your weights for each exercise. Just try and increase them a bit. But remember, as runners, we have other things that influence how much we can lift. I find, for example, at the beginning of a training block, I can increase my lifts each week. But as I get into the higher volume stage and I'm getting closer to my race, I may start to lose a bit of strength. There is one other thing we haven't spoken about, and that's consistency. During a training block, I aim to do 2 strength sessions every single week, and then between races, I might even increase that. I often notice that runners will neglect strength in a way that they would never neglect their running. But if you want to get strong, that is not good enough. You have to prioritize it in the same way you prioritize your running, even if you don't actually spend as much time on it. So that's everything you need to know to build a solid strength session. But if you want to see the exact running program I follow in the run up to an ultra, have a watch of this video here. And until next time, happy training.